All right, so I want to talk a little bit about, the current situation with Sony, with them getting rid of physical discs and all of that, because it's a problem that does definitely need to be addressed. And I think while there is plenty of people talking about it already, maybe some people still don't understand what's going on. So I just kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit. Um, Obviously, video games have been a huge part in the entertainment media as a whole. Um, and chances are, if you're watching this video, you've probably played, a video game, whether it be on disc or not. Um, but Sony's whole dilemma right now is they want to completely get rid of discs by 2028. And I just can't stress how bad of a move that is and how greedy that is from Sony. Um, I mean, discs have always been how video games have been recognized, like with movies and stuff like that, whether it be DVDs, Blu-rays, all that good stuff. That has always had, like discs have always had a reason to be in, entertainment media because that's how you play them. Like the media, that's, with video games, you play them by disc. With movies, you play them by disc. But now, as we're starting to, move into the future a little bit, video games you can play digitally. You can download them from the PlayStation Store and just, play them straight away from there. And movies, you can, just go watch a movie at a cinema and stuff like that. And Sony's essentially trying to say that because because the majority of the sales, quote unquote, are digital. I think their numbers like 80% or something like that, which is completely false, by the way. They don't need to produce physical discs anymore, but that's just a lie from them because the reason why they don't want to do this in the first place is because they want to create a monopoly. Because if there is no retailers, that sort of gauge a fair price for a video game, then people won't know what the actual price of a game is. Like if you look on the PlayStation Store, I think God of War Ragnarok is somewhere around $70 or something like that, maybe 60. And you can get that game on disc at a retail store like GameStop or something for 30 bucks, 25 even. And that's bad for some because if someone was to buy that game through a disc, they have to pay way less, which in return makes Sony less money. So they essentially just want to get rid of discs so they don't have to give a cut to, the retail store that's selling the game, and they also don't have to sell the product at a lower price. So they can literally just ask whatever price they want for a video game, and the public is essentially just forced to buy that. Like if Sony was to come out right and say, "Hey, we're coming out with a new game, but it's going to be priced $120 on PS5 or PS6 or whatever," and you own a PS5 or PS6, there's simply no other way for you to play that game than to purchase it for $120, which is just terrible. I mean, and even worse news is, with Rockstar, making GTA 6 that's hitting, the store soon. I mean, you can already see how big of an impact it has with the amount of pre-orders. It's sort of a scary reality, to be honest with you, because if Rockstar can get away with, pricing their game at $100 and people still buying them, and you can make the argument of like, hey, I mean GTA 6, everyone wants to play this. It's a long-awaited game. Once Rockstar finalizes, the thing of like, hey, $100 is a fair price for a game, every other big company is gonna start doing that as well. With the big ones really being like, for example, um, EA or Ubisoft. I mean, Ubisoft is already terrible in its own. You know, I mean, we saw what they tried to do with Assassin's Creed Shadows and that whole dilemma. You know, where they made some sort of ultimate bundle or something, which was so stupid on their part. I don't know who thought. I mean, who they thought would buy that. To be honest with you, you know, that whole dilemma is soon after AAA companies start making $100 a fair price, then AA, then indie's gonna start, you know, up pricing their games, and that's why PlayStation simply can't, you know, make this monopoly, because if they do, then, you know, in the near future they could probably price the game at like $200, and that is just terrible. You know, because at that point you're just going broke with every game that you're buying. So it's hard, you know. There isn't really a quick solution for this, you know, sort of problem. Obviously, you know, the easiest thing would be to not buy anything from Sony or PlayStation in general, and just sort of wait, you know, until everyone else does that, and then maybe Sony will change their mind. Because I mean, it's gonna be hard to do that because, you know, we already saw what happened with Black Ops 1 and 2. How many people are you know, buying into those, um, and just immediately folding. You know, like one day they were like, "All right, I'm done with PlayStation," and then the next day they buy, you know, both Black Ops. Which, I mean, I can understand why they do that because they are very good games, but the thing that they don't realize is Sony could have added those ports like the day that PS5 launched, you know, but they didn't. I mean, they essentially, I feel like honestly sometimes they just save some of the games that they could port just so in case, like, if a situation like this happens, they have something where they can just quickly make a sale and sort of just get everybody on their team again, you know? Primary example being Black Ops 2. So yeah, just don't buy anything from Sony. If you can, you know, if you have a PC, if you can get a PC. I know it's very hard nowadays because of, you know, RAM prices, SSD prices, and stuff like that, and soon GPU prices going up. It's very, very difficult to get a PC, but it would definitely be a worthwhile investment to get one, seeing as, you know, there isn't a monopoly on PC. You know, like, you actually own your games, at least on like GOG. Because Steam, you have DRM, like you're only buying a license. But the thing with Steam is they're actually good. You know, like, they're a good company. They don't make, you know, like BS deals or you know, pricing. You know, that, like, Steam sales is one of the biggest reasons why Steam has such a huge fan base, and for good reason too. I mean, I love Steam sales. I think 90% of my purchases on Steam are on Steam sales. So, and their customer service is, you know, amazing. You know, with the refund policy and everything. Whereas on PlayStation, the refund policy sucks, and their deals suck. I mean, they literally have, you know, dynamic pricing, which is just like the biggest FU to the entire player base. Because if you spend more money on PlayStation, then they will literally charge you more for spending more money. And then if you spend less money, they will charge you less to sort of get you to make, you know, your first purchase or whatnot, which I think is just like the dumbest thing ever. So that's why, you know, if Steam was to become a monopoly, I wouldn't really mind that because they are a good company. But if PlayStation becomes one, then like the entirety of the gaming industry is just cooked, especially on console. Because, you know, I mean, the pricing is going to be terrible, the customer service is going to be terrible. They've already sort of gone out and said that they just don't really care about their player base, to be honest. You know, especially with what they're doing right now, getting rid of physical. It's such a shame, because they're trying to wipe out probably like the biggest and most nostalgic part of gaming, which is, you know, owning a disc, putting that in your console and just playing right away, which is a shame. And they're also just trying to control like the entirety of the gaming, landscape, I guess you could say, with their prices. So yeah, to sort of wrap the video up, the situation is definitely bad in terms of games right now. Yeah, but I think it could definitely get a lot worse. I mean, we're at a stage right now where there is accessibility. Especially if you have money. You can sort of look into many other ways in order to play games. But in the near future, you probably won't even be able to do that because prices on hardware are going to go up so high. I mean, it's already happened with the PS5. Launch price was like 500. Now it's like 750, I think. Which is just crazy. I mean, AI is essentially just ruining the entirety of pricing for any computer hardware. So yeah, situation's bad, could get worse, and that's about it. See ya.